All right, let's dive into the absolutely epic and honestly pretty brutal world of Norse mythology. We're going to be leaning on H.A. Gerber's classic, Myths of the Norsemen. Now, when you think of gods, you probably think of immortal beings, right? Living forever in some perfect paradise. Well, forget all that. This is the story of a pantheon of gods who were born knowing they had a death sentence. They were fated to die in one last glorious battle. So let's begin. And this right here, this fatalism, it's the key to understanding everything about the Viking worldview. From the moment their stories begin, they are tangled up in the threads of a destiny they absolutely cannot escape. Even when they're feasting in their golden halls, there's this shadow hanging over them, because the gods knew their end was coming. It wasn't a question of if, it was just a matter of when. So if we really want to get a grip on how it all ends, we've got to go way, way back to the beginning. And in the North cosmos, the beginning wasn't some peaceful, orderly event. Oh no, it was an explosion of elemental chaos and just brutal, brutal conflict. Okay, so I want you to picture this. In the beginning, there's nothing but a giant, empty void called the Ginnunga Gap. To the north, you have Niflheim, a realm of just endless, biting cold and ice. And to the south, Muspelheim, a blazing, fiery inferno, home to fire giants. And when the sparks of that fire met the ice from the north, well, the reaction didn't create life as we think of it. It birthed the very first beings, the giants. And the very first of these giants was Ymir. He's the ancestor of all of them, the literal starting point of the cosmos. But here's the wild part, the part that sets the tone for everything to come. For the world of humans and gods to even exist, Ymir had to die. This act of killing the first being, carried out by Odin and his brothers, is the foundational myth. Creation isn't an act of love, it's an act of war. And this is where it gets really, well, grim. The gods literally build our world, which they called Midgard, from the dead body of their enemy. His flesh, that became the land. His blood was poured out to become the oceans and rivers. His bones were heaved up to create the mountains. And they took his skull and raised it up to become the sky itself. Just think about that. The very world is a battlefield, built on the corpse of a slain giant. So, with the giants defeated for the time being, the gods get to work. They build their own spectacular realm, Asgard, and for a while, it's a golden age of power and glory. But for its king, Odin, there was no relaxing. Peace was never really an option for him, because he was completely obsessed with knowing the future. So let's talk about Odin, the All-Father. He's not just some king sitting on a throne, right? He is a wanderer, a shaman, a relentless, obsessive seeker of wisdom. He knew deep down that this peace was only temporary. He knew the descendants of Ymir would eventually come looking for revenge. And he was willing to do anything, literally anything, to find out how it would all end. And this obsession, it drove him on a journey to the roots of the world tree, Yggdrasil. Down there, the giant Mimir guarded a special well. The water in this well, it held all the knowledge of the past, present, and future. Odin approaches Mimir and asks for just a single drink, a chance to see his destiny. But you know, wisdom like that, true foresight, it never comes for free. It always has a cost. And Mimir's price was steep. He demanded a sacrifice, one of Odin's eyes. And without a moment's hesitation, the All-Father plucked out his own eye and dropped it into the water. Can you even imagine that? He valued the bitter truth of his own destruction more than his own sight. And in that moment, after he drinks, he sees it all. He sees the final apocalyptic battle, Ragnarok. But here's the terrible, tragic irony. His great sacrifice didn't give him the key to prevent his doom. It only gave him the absolute, crushing certainty that it was coming. All he could do from that point on was prepare for a war he knew he was going to lose. Now, every great tragedy needs a catalyst, right? That one character who pushes the first domino and sets everything in motion. In this story, that figure is Loki. He's not quite a god, not quite a giant. He's something else entirely. Clever, charismatic, and just pure chaos. And you have to remember, Loki was Odin's blood brother. He lived in Asgard. He was an insider. But his very nature was mischief and deception. He was the loose thread in the grand tapestry of fate, constantly starting fires that the other gods had to put out. And every time they did, the knot of their doom just got a little bit tighter. So Odin's prophetic vision had warned him, specifically, about Loki's children with a giantess.
And these weren't just any monsters. They were literally the fated instruments of the apocalypse. There was Jormungandr, the world serpent, so huge she could wrap himself around the entire earth. There was Hel, the half-dead queen of the underworld, and then there was the most terrifying of all, the great wolf Fenris, who was destined to be the one to kill Odin himself.
The gods, totally freaking out about this prophecy, decide they have to chain up Fenris while he's still a pup. They try once with the mightiest chain they can forge. He snaps it like thread. They try a second time with an even stronger one. He shatters it with ease. It was useless. They weren't just trying to chain a wolf. They were trying to put destiny itself in chains.
So they realize they have to trick him. The dwarves make them a magical ribbon, but Fenris is smart. He won't let them put it on him unless one of the gods places a hand in his mouth as a sign of good faith. The only one brave enough and honorable enough is Tyr, the god of justice. He puts his hand in the wolf's mouth. The ribbon holds tight, and when Fenris realizes he's been tricked, he bites down. The gods had contained one agent of their doom, but the god of justice had to sacrifice his honor and his hand to do it. And that moment of betrayal, it's like a switch is flipped. The prophecies start to accelerate. The golden age is well and truly over. The end is now officially beginning.
The dominoes just start to fall one after another. Bang, bang, bang. Loki orchestrates the murder of Baldur the Beautiful, the purest god, bringing death to the deathless realm for the first time. For this ultimate crime, they capture Loki and bind him, and his agony shakes the very foundations of the world. And then, the Fimbulwinter hits. 3 straight years of winter, no summer in between. The world of men collapses into war and chaos. The prophecies are all coming true. Now, for as long as anyone can remember, there's been this cosmic chase happening up in the sky. 2 great wolves, Skoll and Hati, have been relentlessly chasing the sun and the moon. Well, on the eve of Ragnarok, the hunt is finally over. They catch them, they devour the sun and the moon, and the 9 realms are plunged into a final, suffocating darkness.
And that's it. All the signs have been fulfilled. The bonds are broken. Fenris is loose. Loki is free. And on the great plain of Vigrid, the armies of destiny gather for the last apocalyptic war. You hear this sound, the blast of the Jallarhorn, sounded by the guardian Heimdall. Its call echoes in every corner of the 9 realms. The giants march from their homeland. Loki sails a ship made from the fingernails of the dead. And the gods of Asgard, they saddle up. They ride out one last time, and every single one of them knows they are not coming back.
And the battle itself isn't just random chaos. It's a series of one-on-one duels that were written in fate long, long ago. Every god has their nemesis, their ancient enemy they're destined to face. Thor, the mighty champion, finally goes head-to-head with the world's serpent, Jormungandr, the monster he was never able to defeat. And the outcomes are just as grim as Odin saw in the well all those years ago. Odin rides against Fenris and is swallowed whole by the wolf. Thor finally manages to kill the great serpent, but he's so covered in its poison that he takes 9 steps and falls down dead. Loki and his rival Heimdall, they kill each other. In the end, there are no heroes left standing. Nobody wins. And with the gods dead or dying, the fire giant Surtur, who has been waiting for this exact moment since the beginning of time, finally makes his move. He sweeps his giant flaming sword across all of creation. He sets the world tree on fire. Asgard falls. The 9 realms burn until there's nothing left. And then, only silence. So this brings us right back to the core of that old Norse spirit. They truly believed that their fate was sealed, that their doom was inescapable. And yet, they didn't despair. They didn't just give up. They chose to live lives of courage, to fight for honor, and to meet their end head-on with a weapon in their hand. It leaves us with a really powerful question, doesn't it? Knowing the outcome doesn't change the journey. So if you knew how your story ended, how would you choose to live yours?